Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 40 of the Dharma Junkie podcast. It only took a year. Actually, it took more than a year. It took like 16 months and a heroin relapse to get here. But here we are. We've arrived at episode number 40 of the Dharma Junkie podcast with your host, me, Justin. Okay, so I'm sure I'm not the only one that deals with this. My inner critic voice is very harsh. I say horrible things to myself, really terrible things, and I'm definitely my own worst enemy and my own biggest critic, and it's so hard to stop. Even with a dedicated meditation practice and really practicing mindfulness daily, it's really hard to shut off. It's really hard to stop yourself from picking yourself apart and berating yourself and just saying the worst fucking things you would ever say to anyone, but to yourself. Literally, the things that I say to myself, I would never say to another human being. So why do I say them to myself? It's crazy to me. It's something I'm working on. Thanks, Mikey No Shell and Tara Brock, for all the work you've done on this subject and the work you've done on compassion. If it wasn't for you two, I wouldn't be as far as I am, which, let's be realistic, it's probably not as far as I should be. See, here we go again, beating myself up again. Anyway, on this episode, Anthony and I sit down again and we talk about a lot of crazy stuff. He's got a new book coming out that's scheduled for release October 31st. So it'll be a Halloween release of his new book, Hunt Manual, which is the accompaniment to his prior release, Dive Manual. We also touch on the Cornish Owlman. You'll be sure to love that. And we're all over the place. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it because I had a lot of fun having this conversation with Anthony, as usual. So, without further ado, Anthony Tyler.
You might catch yourself sliding in and out of a hallucinatory state. Just relax and enjoy it. Just relax and enjoy it.
This is an experiment in mind formation. Information. Forming, controlling, operating your mind and your brain. We're using digital techniques to overload, scramble, confuse, unfocus your mind. The natural state of the brain is chaos. Chaos is beautiful.
Style with like a lamp right out of view and just sitting in my chair and yeah, it worked out pretty well. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Dude, he kind of blew my mind though. He was talking about, I don't have my phone on me or I could read his message, but he's got a few different scientists and shit.
Hey, pull your mic up just a little bit.
Are we recording?
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
okay, cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's got a few. Oh man, well I can't talk about this actually.
Then don't talk about it.
Okay. Which is all right. Edit the part where I mentioned their name, but we could talk about it a little bit. Yeah.
I don't think I was recording on that part.
Oh, you weren't?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We'll check it out, but I don't think so.
Either way,
just
I'm not tripping.
They'll be okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let me start over.
Letting loose industry secrets over here.
Yeah. So I will probably be in some sort of documentary coming out next year.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and looking forward to that. It's about unexplainable stuff, and yeah, I don't want to say too much, but I recorded my interview for that recently, and there's going to be some really interesting people on the lineup. I will drop some names to you for fun when we're not recording, and I gave them like 20 minutes or so. And
yeah, you got to lean into that mic, son. You're going to notice like a huge difference.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah. I can hear it in the old mic, headphones there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's going to be a good time. I gave him like 20 minutes, and hell, even if I'm like in the documentary for 30 seconds, that would be sweet with me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So,
yeah, it's still something.
Yeah. Well, what are we going to talk about, man?
I don't know,
you
man.
dragged me out here.
Man, What do you think about that chick that got killed? What do you think about that chick's boyfriend? Where do you think he's at? What do you think's going on with that?
Laundry?
Yeah. Brian Laundry.
I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I caught some headlines, passerby, and I thought it was morbidly funny that his name was Laundry, and it's like a really pedestrian sort of like his name might as well be Average Joe or something. But yeah, no, it's very terrible. I'm not sure really what the situation is. You'll have to inform me a little bit.
I don't really know what it is either. I think they were like having a domestic dispute or something. I think she was probably overreacting to some stuff, and he probably overreacted to some stuff. And
and then he killed her, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what they're saying. I mean, I don't know. That's what they're saying.
I mean, yeah.
I don't.
What if he's like a CIA agent?
I mean, I doubt that's the case.
That burned. Yeah, no, I'm sure.
I highly doubt that one.
Just joking.
Just saying. I don't think that guy's in any lettered organizations.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that sounds pretty rough. God bless anybody touched by that in any unfortunate ways. But yeah, what you've been up to lately? Tell me about some of your guests. I've been so busy networking lately. I haven't been able to catch up with all the recordings of the homies.
I don't know. Some of them are just old episodes that I had recorded and hadn't put out yet.
Oh, right on.
I think one of the guests that I had, one of the episodes I just put out, pretty sure the dude's dead.
Really?
Tried to get in touch with him. Couldn't get in touch with him. He hadn't posted anything online in like several months. And he was kind of up in age. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that
and then just kind of dropped off the face of the earth, and his website's down. Like, yeah.
Especially if they're older up there, that would make sense. Well,
so that was an interesting day when I figured that out.
Yeah.
When I put all that together, that was an interesting day. So I get this. I was trying to go to the river yesterday, right? Mm-hmm. And like as I'm getting ready to go and I'm changing into a swimsuit, I step the little thing that goes to your like the holes on your belt.
Yeah,
the little nail looking thing. I stepped on that, right, and it went like right into my foot. Like,
damn, damn,
dude, it hurt so bad. Oh my god, it hurt so bad.
It's dull too.
Oh, dude.
Oh god.
No, this one's pretty sharp actually.
Oh,
that's why it went on my foot.
That might. Well, I mean, other than the fact that was
clearly, I did not end up going to the river.
Yeah.
After I got a puncture wound in my foot.
Yeah. I wouldn't either.
Yeah. It was a bad.
Maybe
day.
the ocean. Not.
I mean, it wasn't a bad day. It was a bad moment.
Yeah.
It sucked. It hurt a lot. Hurt a lot.
Does it hurt to walk?
Yeah, it fucking hurts to walk, man. What are you talking about? I got a hole in my foot.
Yeah. Well, rest in peace to your proper working foot.
It'll be back in no time. I hope.
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't know, man. That shit hurt a lot. I took all of my like focus and like meditation skill practice, that I've tried to acquire over time, and I had to stop and like close my eyes, and I just kind of sat with it for a minute.
I feel you.
I had to make peace with it.
Yeah.
I had to make peace with it.
I'd go get some cannabis lotion for it if I were you.
Man, I'm not putting shit on that thing right now.
Why?
There's a fucking hole in my foot. It's not like a covered wound. It's a fucking gaping hole in my foot.
Yeah. Well, that sounds super pleasant.
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Great. Radical.
Yeah, I'm having a great time with it. It's really exciting for me.
The constant reminder of the fact that you are alive.
Yeah. Basically. It's just the dull pain of being alive.
Mm-hmm. Gotta love it.
I've just been working a lot, man.
Yeah.
Trying to get podcasts recorded and talk to people, and mostly just work and school. Write a lot of papers. Trying to keep up with all that shit.
Papers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably be going back to school at some point eventually.
I recommend it.
Yeah.
I would do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Don't wait till you're 40. And you're like the oldest person in your fucking philosophy class, and it's weird because you know a lot of the shit already, but you're still just the oldest person there.
Right.
And the only reason that you know it is because you're old and you've had enough time to read a lot of shit.
Yeah. I've started, but I have not finished, so I'll probably end up going back, but I haven't really known what I wanted to go for. My real interests are not really college courses, so
I'm sure there's a school out there somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's someone that would help you in those areas.
I'll go when the time is right, I'm sure. I'll figure something out. But, yeah. I mean, I definitely got stuff happening. Hunt Manual coming out for Halloween this year.
Tentative Halloween release.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel pretty good about saying that at this point, and it is all independent, so no one's really going to get their toes stubbed if it's delayed a little bit. If anything, hey, worst case scenario, I'll release like the first chapter for fun on Halloween, but I feel pretty confident at this point about the timeline on that, and yeah,
spooky.
Yeah, the whole thing is about the Jungian shadow complex and how it relates to things like poltergeists and demonology and even serial killers and cult leaders, and talk about UFOs a little bit in there, and some fortean phenomena, like all the classic monsters like Sasquatch and all the Owlman and all the not just Mothman. There's all sorts of different flying things. It gets fun, man. It's like comic
Owlman.
book. It's like,
okay. I haven't heard that one. Tell me about Owlman.
I believe that was in Cornwall, England. And that
makes sense.
Yeah, and that was in the latter half of the 20th century. Without looking at notes, I'm going to say the 60s, 70s, something like that.
Oh, so it's like recent. I mean, that's in the scope of things, that's pretty recent.
Right. Yeah. You're talking about mythology and stuff is super recent. And I mean, that's kind of one of the Owlman is a good example of, how you can see it's a little more transparent. You can see how this mythology, this like, more, just like modern mythology is created, because it seems really likely for all intents and purposes that Owlman is just a giant owl, and people just got really freaked out. And
I mean, probably.
Yeah.
Just say it. It's probably just a big owl.
Yeah. So, but you can see how there's a lot of mechanisms at play there. You can look at
there's a lot of fucking subconscious at play there.
Absolutely. And there's a whole angle, and this is like some stuff that I talk about in Hunt Manual a little bit, but the threshold between hysteria and like essentially an altered state of consciousness, because we know that at least in certain states of consciousness, there can be like really unique, noteworthy conveyances of messages or emotions and things, whether it be interpretations in your dreams or really strong psychedelic trips, things like that. So it stands to reason that even if hysteria is in a way, it's kind of like a high, it can be hive mind collective, but it's not entirely. And it's certainly not, it's a bit of a degradation, it's someone succumbing to something. So it's not really an altered state that, you look to achieve, but, it stands to reason that there is still the things that you experience in there. It still is an altered state of consciousness. And, there's the fine line between, like how far does hysteria take you? Once it starts, activating fight or flight patterns in your brain. Like, so maybe let's like bring it back to Owlman. Maybe you did see an owl, but then it starts to activate that fight or flight response in your brain. You start to, the shadows start to create things that are, attributes that you're filling in the gaps with. And it starts to play on the mythology in your brain and the archetypes. And it creates this sort of mimetic portal, if you will, of like primal fear and these things that like some of the most like quintessential primordial things that make us human. And, that's what mythology is all about in the long run. And on some level, so if you can get a reaction like that, then from Owlman, then in a way Owlman is real. But is it a real, actual Owlman? No.
I mean, maybe.
Highly unlikely.
Here's a hypothesis, right? Okay, so it was in the 60s or 70s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like
so
that.
maybe somebody was just like really high and they're like, it's a fucking owl, man. And somebody was like, fucking owl, man? And they're like, oh shit, owl, man.
Oh,
and
shit.
now owl, man is a thing
That's
that exists
possible.
in a lexicon.
That is possible.
And I mean, even if it wasn't, if they saw it, it was real to them.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and that's a point there. So
So owl, man exists in the minds of people.
exactly. If nothing else, Owlman lives as a mimetic virus we spread amongst
As
each
a
other.
message to us all.
Yeah. But there's Dogman, there's Frogman, obviously there's Mothman. There's so many different Nessie variations. There's like Bessie and like Tessie and there's like 7 different variations.
That was just sounded silly.
That is silly. Yeah. I mean, all of it, like, that's the fun of it. Like, a lot of it is tongue in cheek.
You could piss some people off with that.
What, me?
Saying it's tongue in cheek. Some people probably take that shit very seriously.
Okay.
There's somebody out there who's very obsessed with Tessie.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just saying that dude's out there and he's on the internet somewhere.
yeah. Well, if you're listening to this, then,
Congratulations, you found us.
yeah. Congratulations on finding this. And
good luck on finding Tessie.
right. I mean, but just to be real, like, on that level, there's obviously some level of like creating like a mascot for your hometown,
Right.
and I like that. I think that's cool. That's fun. And you kind of keep that like a little tongue in cheek, and like people see things floating in the water, and that's the legend of Tessie. Again, it's that mimetic thing. It's the quality of it. And I think that's cool, man. Like, I totally dig that. But then there also are the really genuinely crazy stories. And I get into that in Hunt Manual too. Like, there's police reports you can find of different things. Like, I found one about, a poltergeist.
Oh yeah.
The Church Street poltergeist in the 70s or 80s, in, St. Catharines, Canada. And it was a 28-day event. And you can find the police report online now. And you can also find interviews with these former police officers, retired now. And, none of these guys were like paranormal enthusiasts or anything. They were standard officers. So some of them retired military. Right. And in the police report, the sergeant states, like, he, after explaining the series of different things he went through, looking into the infrastructure of the apartment complex and any possible scenarios, like, and then witnessing phenomena himself, he says in the police report, this child is being affected by the spirit of a poltergeist.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it goes it's crazier than that, because it doesn't just stop there. There's accounts by these police officers all over the place of this kid being flung around the room and objects, like all the classic poltergeist phenomena that you would expect to find. And then like locals and neighbors are seeing it. Yeah, and then the cherry on top is there's one instance where there's like 2 or 3 cops in the room, and they're going through they're having like a standard look over and conversation, because it's an ongoing thing. Mm-hmm. And there's also some locals, like some apartment neighbors and stuff. And so there's like a couch full of people, and there's some people standing. And in the middle of the conversation, the couch starts to levitate like several feet into the air, and it's got some neighbors on it, and it also has a cop on the couch. Meanwhile, there's a cop standing watching the other cop levitate on the couch. So you have like multiple corroborating angles, and it's, and they talk about it and everything. They're not shy about it. And, but actually, I mean, that lends to the credit is it wasn't like it was something that was they tried to keep it really, really low key. Mm. and somehow it leaked out to the local press, and then it made its way to Johnny Carson, and then it became like a big event.
Yeah.
And but the family has never done any public interviews about it or anything like that. So it's really not one of those things, because that always creates a little bit of a shadow of a doubt when someone's trying to make a lot of money off of bold claims. And these people definitely didn't do that. I mean, these cops haven't done a ton of interviews either, but you can find some of them. So when you juxtapose that with Owlman, there's a lot to sift through here.
Man, I want to believe in Owlman.
Could be, man. It's possible.
I want to live in that reality where I believe in Owlman. I want to not be so skeptical of everything.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely a skeptical person, but so there's only so much I can believe in. But
right
when things are open ended,
not one of them for me.
No,
but that's what I'm saying. I want to believe.
Yeah, and yeah,
I'm like Agent Mulder.
Do you really though?
An Owlman?
Yeah.
I mean, kind of. Give me something to do.
I don't know, man.
I'm always looking for a new hobby.
There's been many a forteana investigator that probably hunted Sasquatch and Dogman rather than playing catch with his son. So I don't know.
Well, I don't have children.
Yeah.
I mean, I do actually. I do have children. I don't have any of my own, but I have stepkids. So.
Yeah, you got shit keeping you busy.
Yeah. I got plenty of stuff keeping me busy. I don't have time for Owlman.
There's also a police report from Murfreesboro, Illinois in the 70s where the cops, like the sheriff, investigated a rash of Sasquatch sightings. And they're actually pretty interesting. Again, I don't exactly it's a case by case basis. I reserve the right to think of these things either as mythology, either as some sort of like altered state of consciousness, hallucination that we don't understand, or.
But I mean, if there was like multiple sightings, that would have to be like some sort of mass hallucination. Yeah,
and I think that these things, and if this sounds wild to you, then I recommend you check out Hunt Manual when it comes out because there's a lot of food for thought in there. But on a certain level, you look at really crazy mass events like something like the visions at Fatima, which I could explain a little bit, but to finish the point, like once there's a tipping point in consciousness and like collective consensus with things like hysteria or even the opposite end of hysteria, like I don't know what you would call that, like collective like entrancement or something. But strange things start to happen. There's definitely a resonance. There's some sort of energy, brain waves, Hertz waves. There's something there's something going on there. And we know, science knows that collective hallucination is a thing. So what's going on there? Like that could be like some giant waking dream state.
Fine question.
Yeah.
You ever heard the theory that like Bigfoot is interdimensional?
In a way, if we're talking about, I dropped the term mimetic portal earlier. Like if, depending on how far you want to take the extents of that could make him interdimensional right there.
I've heard all kinds of Bigfoot theories. He's interdimensional, that he's almost like a drone for aliens or like a...
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard some good ones, man. My friend Gary's way into that. Gary of the Everything Imaginable podcast.
See, I love hearing that stuff, but for me, great. That's tongue in cheek. Great.
It's like talking to Tommy Chong. Like legit.
Nice.
You sound like Tommy Chong, Gary. Yeah.
Hey, that's not bad.
No, you sound like worse things, like Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah, I won't even attempt to do an impression.
But yeah, interdimensional Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like we were saying,
I don't think he's classically physical. Point being,
right? No, he's like more archetypal.
Yeah, and I think that things can happen where.
What is that? The collective conscious that like creates that kind of event, where you have like multiple sightings of strange like archetypal phenomena.
It's really hard to say. This is like that very outer limits. Like the event horizon, I think, of where you can even, is like, what I'm doing is like, this is all scientific speculation. This is based on, the scientific data, on top of like looking into the history of things and stuff. Like I've looked into a lot of,
what scientific speculation exactly?
Well, we're talking about like looking into the data of things like collective hallucination and hysteria and stuff like that. And,
I thought we were talking about Owlman for a minute.
No. So when you look at that data and then you look at other things like the power of symbols and memetics and archetypes, and then you look at other things in this metaphysical realm, whether it be stigmata or even like implants from abductees in some cases, or like Fatima is a really weird, interesting example. You're probably familiar with that, aren't you?
No.
Okay. Well, okay. I was going to go into it for the listener, but this will be fun for you. This is,
I like fun.
Yeah. I'm going to get, some of these numbers are going to be rough, estimates because I don't have the notes in front of me, but you can look it up. So in like, this is like the early 20th century, like 1910 or some around there, in Portugal, there were 3 children, that witnessed the Virgin Mary. It was like a really intense, vivid hallucination, or like a divine intervention, or whatever you want to call it. And she said she told them some things, and honestly, what she told them isn't nearly as powerful as the events, because it had some stuff to do with like World War II, and I don't know, it's vaguely interesting, but a lot of it seems to be a miss. It starts to like, I don't even remember it fully, but so she tells the children to come back at a certain date, not that far off, like some weeks or like a month. And they bring some more people back and they all see her again. And this was like a handful of people. And, the Virgin Mary appeared like 4 or 5 times. Well, the next time, or the third time, it might have been like 5 or 6. Like the third time, like 100 people showed up, like the whole town showed up, and they all saw her again. And then the 5th time was like thousands of people. And by the last time, there was 70,000 people there. And and there was like politicians, there was, esteemed officials in the church. And there was like people coming from all over, because each time this miraculous encounter happened, she was healing people of ailments, the Virgin Mary. And it's really wild. It's definitely, this is a perfect example of the threshold between like, where does collective hysteria or entrancement end, and where does metaphysical phenomena begin? And, do they exist on a continuum? They probably do. Because when you start to project such an intense level of a collective consensus, I don't think it's entirely coming from the people. It's not like puppetry either, but like I like this example. I use it often. With your projection process, whether it be like imaginative or altered state or like a psychedelic, what have you. With your projection process, you're creating a proverbial bottle for the genie. And sometimes it could be just projection, but in really powerful, like, just completely unexplainable, like forteana to the upteenth degree. I think that there's every possibility and likelihood that something, sentient could be on the other side of that. I don't think it's straightforward though. Like, I don't think it's classically the Virgin Mary. And Jacques Vallée, my favorite, ufologist, other than maybe John Keel. But, Vallée goes into this in, I think it's The Invisible College. I believe so. He goes into the whole angle, and he does it very well, explaining the correlates between ufology and the Fatima encounters. And the overall takeaway is not so much that it was UFOs pretending to be the Virgin Mary, so much as it is there's this weird anomalous threshold where something can take the mask of a variety of different things.
Right.
And there's a book out there called The Goblin Universe.
Okay.
And it's something that you can't find a copy of these days, because it was just not in print that long. You can't even find a Kindle copy, but you can find people talking about it online. And I stumbled across a podcast of people who read it and went through it. And it's a really fun, interesting book. It was published after forteana investigator Bob Holliday died. And so it was like a rough draft. So reportedly, it's not like a super polished book at all, and it's got some holes, but the concept is the same kind of thing. And this is a running theme in a Hunt manual as well. The whole idea that there's different metaphysical vantage points out there. You know, there's some demonic and divine and things, but there's definitely, these things are a kaleidoscope. They wear different masks for sure.
Right.
And the more you look at it, the more you find that this just like a basic tenet of it all. It's kind of inarguable.
Right. Yeah. Well, fucking metaphysics, man. It's kind of hard to grasp for a lot of people. I mean, just in the sense that, things that are metaphysical, you almost can't even conceive of because you have no lens to be able to conceive of them because of your conditioning.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like you'll never be able to see ultimate reality because you're always going to see it through this lens of your perspective.
Right. It's like the eyeball trying to see itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. What do we do with that? How do we unpack that?
Yeah.
How do we get around that one?
Yeah. I mean, we're never going to have the answers. That's for sure. But it's fun to try.
I guess. Try. I mean, yes, it is. Yes, for sure, it is. But it can also be a fucking bummer, man. You know how much time you spend fucking just pondering those questions? It's like chasing Owlman. It's like ultimately a fucking shell game.
Yeah, I guess only if you're in it for the end result.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for any kind of real answer, like you should probably give the game up.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you just have abstract thought, then for sure, keep doing that. Keep pondering that shit.
Yeah, I think people, are like neuron. They're like, oops, I keep hitting this damn mic arm.
Nah, it's fine.
I think people are like neurons to the collective consciousness, so in some
absolutely.
way it's,
yeah, 100%.
It's good to fire off and be a part of the thought process, but, yeah.
That's the thing is you have
not
to,
everyone knows.
You have to bounce
answer.
ideas off of other people.
Right.
Those are the kind of things. Those are the kind of questions you can't sit and think about by yourself. You have to bounce that shit off other people. Otherwise, you're gonna get nowhere.
That's a lot of the reason why I'm into this stuff is because I love thinking about it anyway. And on a certain level, if I'm going to think about it enough, there aren't really enough people. I don't think there are hardly enough people in anybody's life to talk about this,
right.
Like whether it be fortean or esoteric. Right. So it kind of helps.
What's funny is what's funny is I was like, yeah, but this shit I talk about all the time.
Me too.
I think I'm just doubting. I think I'm just questioning myself. Like, why do I talk about this all the time?
Man,
here comes Justin with this bullshit again.
Yeah, people like it though. People like it. Everyone has that one friend. Like I'm the archetypal crazy man
the fool.
Yeah. In my friend group, whoever knows me, I'm just. You can count on me to be left field, a wild card, like Charlie.
Right. Wow. Yeah, shit, man. Yeah, I don't know, man. The whole idea of the collective conscious, like, it's so strange. Just that, like, synchronization of, like, shared hallucination. It's just such a strange phenomena.
Yeah.
Like, really, like, if we got down and really, like, tried to explore that, like, in and of itself, like, what would constitute such a thing,
It really...
like, where do you even begin with that question?
I know. It's extremely fascinating because we really... like,
is it purely psychological? Is it metaphysical? Where do you start? Like where do you even, like, because you can't even get to a jumping off point without a starting point. So like, where do you even begin with that?
Well, I think you begin with that.
You would have to like interview like everybody and see the like correlatives, like similarities.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
In a case like Fatima, that's like crazy well documented. You can say that people, there's a level of like I've said a couple times, like a collective, like consensus reality, where people, it's almost like a common denominator of vision. And sometimes, it's definitely not a conscious thing, but it definitely seems to happen, like a bias in a way. And, so there's a lot of different ways you could slice that pie, but long story short, there's a collective projection happening. That's for sure. And, you could get into, the basic Jungian tenets there of, some sort of latent unconscious manifestation that's
right. But what causes that in a large group of people? That's the question.
Yeah. Well,
like that's what I want to get to the bottom of. Like, what is behind that? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, that's the question. Like, what we understand, we all get what it is, but like, how do we arrive to that? That's the fucking real question. Is it outside influence? Is it, external stimuli?
I think it's a perfect storm combination of things. Like some people talk about ley lines and shit like that, and I think that some of that can get hokey. But the idea of certain electromagnetic anomalies in the environment, I think that's a potentially interesting component. But it definitely has to do with the human being reaching into or falling into a radically altered state of consciousness. And then I think...
that's pretty evident.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to state things explicitly with these things because it could get so confusing. And, but you're asking, where do you start? And that is where you start, because you have to start with the psychological, before you get into the metaphysical, because the human vantage point is the only control method we have for these kinds of stuff.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my point. It's like, you have to start with the psychological, but what it's almost easy to explain psychology when you're talking about one person. When you're talking about an individual, you can be like, okay, well, these factors factor this way, and because of this, because of causes and conditions, it was this perfect storm event for this one individual. Mm-hmm. But when you get into 20 people, 100 people, 7,000 people, 70,000 people, when you get up to those numbers, like, how can it be that across the board they're all having the same experience, even psychologically, whether it's just a psychological phenomenon? How can everything line up with the perfect storm for everybody? That's like, so like, then you have to like say, okay, there has to be some sort of external agent that's causing that. It's not just, there has to be some one thing or two things. It can't be like a huge number of things. You see what I'm saying? It can't be like, because the factors are all so different for everyone. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So because they're all so different for everyone and everybody has their own experience and their own subjective reality, things are absolutely different for every person. So that being said, how do they all arrive at the same point where they're having the same psychological phenomenon? There has to be some sort of other factor involved.
Well, you just reminded me.
It's like the Pythagorean, can't talk right now.
Pythagorean
theorem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a way, it is actually. That's
It's
a
like
good
A
point.
plus B equals A squared plus B squared equals C squared. You know, like you have to arrive at it somehow. There has to be. I mean, well, yeah, that could be argued too, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. It's such a fucking weird question.
Valet actually talks about how he talks about this more directly with the UFO phenomena, and I think it applies to unexplainable phenomena at large. That when something genuinely anomalous happens, like even if it is a projection, when you get something weird like a really truly anomalous footprint or anything like that, then something strange is happening. It is the he calls it the completion of a circuit to some degree. The human brain, the human psyche is providing some sort of proxy for something to fulfill a further process. Yeah. And that could either be allegorical or literal. It's the jury's not out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where do I need to be putting this thing?
Right there.
There?
Yeah, there
okay.
you go.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, there you go. It's much better.
Cool.
Yeah. It happens. So moving around and kind of squirrely with it.
Yeah, I got to get used to this.
Yeah, it's a little different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just, let's see. That's why I had to stop, like, really, really, like, getting into deep thought on things like that. Is like, that shit would keep me up at night. I'd fucking sit there and fucking think about it. Kicking around fucking ideas in my head. And it just got to be crazy.
Yeah. It doesn't keep me up at night, but, you know.
I got really deep into simulation theory for a while.
Yeah.
And it did not do wonders for my perspective of reality. If you know what I mean. Things got slippery for a bit.
Yeah, that can be a tightrope. I understand that. You know, when I was younger, I wasn't really sure. You know, I think a lot of people go through this, but it depends on the degrees and how it affects you. But and it doesn't often happen super young. I feel like the numbers show, but you just get to a point where you're like, how real is any of this? You know, and
right.
it truly sinks to your core where until you're able to kind of like reconfirm it for yourself in some ways, once you have that initial doubt and you let it sink in far enough, you really don't know if anything is real.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as real as it appears.
Right. I think the only certainty in terms of reality, you know, you could get into quantum and vibratory and whatever, but
right.
like, so the only, like, I definitely don't, I draw the line at solipsism where you think that you're the only consciousness that exists.
Right.
You know, because that you have to provide the proper soil for empathy and things like that. Mm. You know, if you start thinking that everything's a figment of your imagination, that's also
right.
clinical psychopathy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Or psychosis.
Yeah. That shit gets slippery when you start getting into,
yeah. So yeah, you gotta there's that fine line. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I mean, a lot of this is an illusion. There's no question about that. Have you ever read Michael Talbot's Holographic Universe or The Holographic Universe?
No, I haven't.
Dude, you got to add that to your list. You know, don't rush out, but like when you get some free time, you really got to add that to your list because that's a classic.
Yeah.
And it holds up to this day. It's fucking really good. It is similar, kind of similar to the stuff that we've been talking about, Hunt Manual and Fillet and all that, but it doesn't, I think it goes a little bit into UFOs. It's been a while since I read it, but it mostly focuses on the paranormal and like metaphysical phenomena, like whether it be from the East and the West, and it goes into holographic theory, and oh,
that's fun.
Yeah,
I like it already.
Yeah, it's very fascinating, and it talks about, you know, because that's a whole angle of the projection process. Like you could really And he does in a way. He doesn't get super deep into the Jungian part per se, but I believe he does break it down a little bit. And so you can really, the whole holographic principle is definitely something you could say that is a facet of the Jungian projection process. And it certainly rings, like it holds up, the human psyche is holographic in many ways. And I'm not prepared to break all of that down for the listener right now. I wasn't planning on talking about it, and it's been a minute since I read the book, but the book is very compelling, and like I said, it's a classic. I'd recommend it to anybody. So that's a good one. And because I mean, it goes into like collective hallucination and things like that, and there's so much to be said for it. That's the outer limits of That's the outer limits of scientific understanding.
Yeah. I gotta pee.
Yeah.
I gotta pee real bad.
Okay, go for it, man.
We'll take a break.
All right.
I want to have shared hallucinations with someone. I want to have shared hallucinations with a group of 70,000 people. Without drugs.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, have you never done that? Like with a group of people?
I've been to music festivals.
Yeah, that's all you need. But it's not the same. It's not the same.
No. That's what I'm saying.
Definitely
I'm going to get there through like non-chemical means. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, that's why some people become magicians. I'm not sure how far that goes though.
I hear
that's also the outer limits.
I hear Kundalini is good for that too.
Yeah.
That's just what I've heard. You can reach like DMT type states.
That's what I've heard. I haven't.
I can't espouse, one way or the other because I've never attempted it or done it. So,
yeah, you got to be really disciplined to do that. I'm disciplined in certain ways.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, I'm disciplined in some things, but maybe that's something I'll get into later.
Yeah, you also have to have the time. For that.
Yeah, I was about to say I just don't have the time for it right now. It's just one thing I lack. The time. Not getting any more of that shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me neither. But
that's a bummer.
I don't know. I don't know how far it extends, but I mean, if it would stand to reason that if you can have this level of collective hallucination that we're talking about, that you could probably do it at least on some level consciously.
For sure.
You'd have to go through a lot of steps though.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, it has to be possible, right?
Yeah. And and the hardest part is, I think a lot of people would be willing to consider that it's conceivable. It's certainly conceivable, but then how do you find the process of actually doing it? That's a whole different question.
Right. That's kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. You have to figure out the exact conditions needed to invoke that state.
Right.
And then do that amongst a large group of people. So,
Is that not what stage magic is in a way?
Isn't that what cults are?
Also. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, like if we're really breaking it down, like isn't that just cult-like behavior?
Yeah. It sure is. Cults are very morbidly fascinating.
Oh man, I know. I broke my Jim Jones mug earlier when I was doing dishes.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was sad.
Yeah.
I was washing it and the handle came right off of it.
Oh damn.
Bummer.
Yeah.
It's been a rough couple of days.
Yeah, man.
I got that thing in my foot. I got my car washed for like the first time in like 4 or 5 months, and then like within 2 hours of getting it washed, a bird shit on it.
Right.
Yeah, it was that kind of day.
That's like a law of the universe, practically.
Yeah. Oh, what else? What else happened? Oh yeah, I looked at the one of the last papers I submitted and realized that my formatting for like the second page was all fucked up somehow. So I had to like write a fucking email to my teacher and be like, "Hey, somehow the formatting got messed up," and I fixed it and resubmitted it. And fortunately, he accepted it, and he was like, "Yeah, it happened."
Oh, right on.
Yeah,
right on.
I was like,
"Good thing you got a good professor."
Oh yeah, my credit score dropped by like 50 points. Like it's just been a shit. So I don't know what's going on, man. Like, but like the past like day or two, it's just been rough.
An astrologer would probably say Mercury is in retrograde or something like that. I don't know.
It though?
I don't think it is.
I kind of want to look it up. I want to see now. Let's find out. I don't know.
Pretty funny.
What do you think about astrology? You into that shit?
I don't.
You give it any merit?
I give it merit, but only to a certain degree. And
for entertainment purposes.
well, like I could put it like this: when you look into things like the precession of the equinoxes and the whole symbolism behind it, the Great Platonic Year being the like full rotation of the Earth's axial tilt in relationship to the sun. So all that symbolic stuff, the symbolism is the outer trimmings of the science today, but it's still the science.
Son of a bitch.
What? It is? Wow. See, this is what I'm talking about.
Look at that shit.
This is what I'm talking about.
Fuck you, Mercury. This is bullshit. Relationship drama, indecisiveness. Oh God, no legal issue, please. I'm glad I don't do anything illegal anymore. Jesus Christ, man. If this was me fucking 6 years ago, I'd be fucked. Well, wait, I was fucked 6 years ago. That's right. So fucking Mercury and retro.
Wow, I called it.
And it started yesterday.
Wow.
And yesterday was like, everything went wrong yesterday.
Uh-oh.
Quite literally, everything just went wrong yesterday. It was absolutely
something
great.
to it.
Dude,
yeah.
what the actual fuck?
And see, like, I'm not always checking astrology charts. In fact, I rarely ever do.
Yeah, no, me neither.
But I think that there is some use there can be some use out of it. And where I think there's a lot more interesting value is honestly, the birth signs. I think that, cause people talk about, how they're like generalized statements that could be, that could describe anybody. And I mean, maybe in like the new age horoscopes and stuff, but these things actually have like a really long lineage.
Oh yeah.
And,
sure.
And when you look into the archetypal components, you find them all throughout comparative religion, used all throughout the Abrahamic religion. I mean, even if there's so many different forms of astrology too, because astrology was the first astronomy. And I mean, a lot of people forget, like skeptics forget that in a lot of cases, these people were using symbols to kind of encapsulate mathematical ideas that they were working with, whether they be theories or speculation or whatever. So, and I mean, in the long run, I don't even think you have to get into like the literal planets affecting Earth on an energetic level. I think it's very much kind of like in some ways like a protractor. Like I think that the planets originally, especially in like ancient times when they had to work around certain things because they didn't have the scientific advancements we do, you use the other planets to help correlate your position in relationship to the sun. And we know for a fact how much the sun plays a role in our consciousness and our ability to just live at large.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, that's in large degrees of like the Goldilocks zone and stuff. And even when you get into the more fine point stuff, like I grew up in Alaska, and lack of sun is a huge thing. Like even it doesn't matter how tough or like a seasoned dude you are, like your classic Grizzly Adams, like even that dude will start to feel seasonal depression. I've seen it many times.
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah. So
I'm starting to feel it already. It just started getting like
you're feeling the Mercury retrograde blues.
I'm feeling all of it. I'm feeling all of it all at once.
Yeah. Hey, at least you're not in Alaska.
Hey,
it's hard to be optimistic and like when you're like 4th month of like all but total darkness. You get a little bit of sunlight in most of the state, but not much. Like deep into the winter, not much at all.
That's fucking crazy to me. I can't even fathom that. See, like that's not like any. See, like because I've never experienced that. Like I can't even like even really picture what that would be like as far as like my reality. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like because I've never been exposed to that. Like I can't even like I can kind of imagine it, but there's no way I can really imagine what it's really like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's weird because your body really relies on a lot of exterior kicks to like help it go into certain
your circadian rhythm and
exactly.
everything.
Yeah. So when you don't have any sun or like regular sun to help with that, then like it definitely causes like sleeping issues and all sorts of things. But
People get sick a lot during those months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Because like they can't go outside. They can go outside, but there's no sun, so they don't not like getting vitamin D.
Yeah.
So yeah,
everyone's got like unless you're taking supplements, or like going to, like some sort of tanning bed to get your vitamin D. I don't know. Right. I don't go to tanning beds, but I'm sure they provide that on some level, or at least some do. But like you got to go and get some sort of, because you know they make bulbs.
Yeah,
like some of those are
like sun lamps.
Yeah. So you can go do that kind of stuff. You really need that in Alaska. You legitimately do.
Crazy to me.
Yeah.
See, I'm from Florida, so like that's the whole idea of that is just
it's insane.
Like,
yeah.
Like keep
it's
me
preposterous.
It's absurd. Yeah. I see. Like that's what I'm saying. Like that's a completely like alternate reality for me. Like I can't even fathom that because but you walk outside here and it's like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's like
it is
being
too
obliterated by the sun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, when you get like closer to the Arctic Circle in Alaska, like up towards the top, like Barrow, for instance, around the winter solstice, they have like 3 months of total dark and just snow. And then around the summer solstice, they have about 3 months of no dark at all. So really wild existence. I've never lived up there. I lived like right outside of Anchorage.
You.
Yeah, I know, right? I knew people who did though. Right. And but where I lived, you'd get around the solstices, you probably only get like 4 or 5 hours of sunlight or daylight. Yeah.
Wow.
Nighttime or daytime.
It's like a whole different kind of gratitude. Just being grateful for having fucking days and nights.
Yes.
Consistently.
It seriously is. Yeah. That was one reason I left Alaska. Is, I appreciate consistency in the natural environment. I do. Yeah, Alaska, nothing's the same. Nothing stays the same ever.
I mean, that's to suppose that everything stays the same anywhere, which it's not guaranteed. Just because it has doesn't mean it always will. Shit could blow up tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It could start snowing like right now and just never stop ever again.
It could.
It could. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
No.
Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it won't.
Yeah. I mean, there are classic fortean accounts of raining frogs and shit like that. So I'm sure.
Sounds awful.
Yeah, that'd be terrible, right? I don't know if that's seriously true or not, but there are accounts of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, there are accounts of it. I can't speak whether it's true or not.
Yeah,
it's in that Owlman category that I just don't have enough information on. Not yet, anyway.
No,
not yet. Next time we talk, I'm gonna have a fucking whole fucking dossier on fucking Owlman.
Yes, I can't wait. But
actually, that's not true. I really don't have the time. It would be fun to look into. I might I might give it a Google. I might give it a Goog.
You should.
Yeah. Other than that, I probably won't ever even think about Owlman again unless like somebody mentions it to me.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to have.
Make Owlman t-shirts.
Yeah. You got the money to throw down.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say, I even think that at least some of the Mothman sightings were probably owl sightings or whatever else. But Mothman is different because that is there was a lot more weird anomalous activity. Like Owlman, you don't have anything but sightings, just people being freaked out by essentially an enormous owl. But Mothman is a whole cornucopia of weird stuff.
Allegedly, an enormous owl.
Yeah.
Don't discount the Mothman, dude.
But there's some legit folklore and like fortean stuff that out there. You could look up lists online. I don't have them all memorized or anything, but there's a lot of animals that were just like in mythology and then became fortean like like, oh, I saw this, and people were like, no, you didn't, it doesn't exist, and then eventually find out that it does. So like, I do remember that is the exact case for the Vietnamese soft shell tortoise or turtle. I think it's a turtle.
That's not very exciting though.
No, but these are real world. But it's
not like a Mothman. You know?
No,
it's not even the same fucking. It's not even the same sport.
But it's really important to their mythology. It's like an archetypal symbol.
Yeah, no,
but
I get that.
But no, this is gonna
boring mythology.
This is gonna get your jollies off a little more. Have you ever heard of Hogzilla?
Yes.
See, that was a thing that was considered legend, like not exactly urban because it's hunting and stuff, but still a modern legend. And people didn't believe it existed, but then eventually people was sought out to prove it and got pictures with it and stuff. And these Hogzillas, they're wild boar that breed with like a different type of wild boar or something like that, and they become man, I wish I had the measurements in front of me, but
huge.
Yeah, they're like medium-sized elephants.
Yeah,
seriously,
it's like a truck.
Yeah, like a monster truck.
Shit's crazy.
Like seriously, maybe like an F-150.
It's like they just don't stop growing. There's something about their genetics; they just never stop growing.
Dude, it's wild. It really is.
Yeah, it's just crazy as shit. I remember that shit. I remember when that was like just hit the internet and everyone, oh, fucking Hogzilla.
Yeah, and everyone thought it was a fake at first.
Yeah. That shit was insane. I still remember that picture. That shit was crazy as fuck.
Yeah, there was one that broke, and then since then there have been like, I'm sure there have been even more, but there's at least like 3 or 4 photos that became viral and like have names for them because they were like prominent and like huge.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, just none of them are quite as compelling as a Mothman, but it still gets pretty interesting looking into those kind of things and the reality of them. But that is, and I guess the closest thing we have to unrelated phenomena in that regard with that really wild stuff is Skinwalker Ranch. I'm sure you know a little bit about Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, I'm not like a scholar on the subject, but I know enough in passing. But you know, Bigelow bought it for a while. He doesn't own it anymore, but he owned Budget Inn and Suites, and he just wanted to sink money into.
Shout out to Budget Inns and Suites.
But he got, you know, all sorts of scientists there and whatnot, and they got all sorts of conversations of unexplainable phenomena, and you know, the whole catch to it all is that the biggest thing they were able to ascertain, like the biggest takeaway from Skinwalker Ranch, is that, you know, and it boils down to whether you believe them or not, is that the phenomena evaded surveillance and toyed with them on several different levels. And
how convenient.
Yeah. So a lot of people think that, I don't know how far this goes. This is pure speculation from my vantage point. I don't necessarily believe it either. I'm open to either interpretation, but a lot of people think that this is a whole government psyop. Bigelow buying Skinwalker Ranch and hiring scientists from esteemed colleges, universities, you know, professors and things, but all being anonymous because they didn't want to be publicly associated with paranormal and like get blackballed by the scholastic community.
Right.
But since then, after it's been all wrapped up, because someone else owns it now, there have been scientists that have come out and acknowledged that they were some of the people there and have talked about their stories and added a little more transparency. But still, it's certainly, I don't think it's too cynical or skeptical to wonder what type of psyop might be at play there. But it also might be genuine, you know, I don't really know, but it's one of those things where it reaches so far out into the realm of, when there's that kind of money being tossed around, and then you got Coast to Coast in the mix making headlines with that. They were really involved with all that. At least, I can't remember if it was before, during, or after, but I think it was throughout. And in any case, there's a lot of different momentum behind such a huge moving target like that, essentially. So I don't know. I don't know how you sift through all the motivations on that one, but it's an interesting story.
It sounds interesting. Might have to look into that one. I don't have time to look into all these things, man. You're dropping all this knowledge on me, and I'm just not going to have time to like even investigate it.
Oh man,
And I'm going to feel like an asshole.
Well, that's what podcasts are good for sometimes.
But feeling like an asshole?
I guess, but no. I mean, no, like hands-free research.
Yeah.
You know,
They are,
you want to follow
really good for that. I've gotten a lot of really, really good information and knowledge from just listening to podcasts while I'm doing other shit.
Yeah,
It's a nice way to multitask and really pass the time and get some good knowledge you didn't have.
yeah.
Or at least pose new questions. You know, at least make you think more analytically and more, for lack of a better term, outside the box.
Yeah, I mean, audiobooks specifically, I mean, you are reading source material there. And like, even with a podcast, if you're serious enough about it, you want to follow up with the primary source material. But I mean, you can learn plenty from a podcast. That's for sure. Yeah.
Or at least give you like, just a place to start.
Yeah.
Like a jumping off point. Like, oh, I'm interested in that. And
Especially if it's a legit podcast.
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
Someone that's
which
actually
this
trying.
is not, yeah.
Well, it's not a research podcast.
No research. No fact checking.
Mm-mm. Yeah, some of those podcasts are like I listened to Time Suck with Dan Cummins.
Mm.
You know Dan Cummins?
No, I mean, not personally.
you know Doug Stanhope.
I do know Doug Stanhope.
Yeah.
That's accurate.
Dan Cummins is like a trippier, surrealist kind of slightly less nihilistic Doug Stanhope, but Doug is one of his favorite comedians.
Oh,
so
that makes sense.
Yeah.
No.
And
he's like Doug Stanhope light.
He's like Doug Stanhope on a little more psychedelics.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, like kind of like if Doug Stanhope's acid bootleg was his standard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
Yeah, which is great. I love that.
Oh, yeah,
the acid bootleg. That's great.
Super good.
But so Dan Cummins does this show, this podcast, Time Suck, which is like you got to have a dark sense of humor to enjoy it. Otherwise, you're gonna miss it. But
right.
It covers everything from serial killers and true crime to fortean sometimes, and conspiracy theories and stuff like that. And I was kind of making a point about research podcasts. It's so extensive. Like he does a lot of the research on his own, but he has like two other people or so behind the scenes helping him out just with research.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And and then he has other people. He's got like a small team of people that record because he's been doing it for a little while, and he's a successful comedian and shit.
Right.
But the level of research that goes into a weekly research podcast,
right.
That's like 2 hours. Like, man, you got to have a team behind it. That is a lot of stuff.
Yeah, if you're gonna
if
you're gonna drop that much like actual researched information, like in a 2-hour podcast, you're talking about multiple hours of research.
Yeah,
I mean, not like any small amount. Probably like, I'd say 20 to 40 hours of research.
Right. It's like days and days of research from multiple people.
Like exhausting days of research.
Yeah.
Like really putting the work in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't research shit.
Well,
I mean, I do.
You don't want to.
I do, but like I'm very selective with what I research because I am very short on my time.
Well, you don't research like per podcast. But you do research.
No,
you definitely
exactly.
research. Yeah.
No, I don't do any like individualized research on subjects.
I feel like you have to be
most of the time because my guests are going to. Chances are, if that's a subject that they're going to talk about, then they're going to educate me on it anyway.
Right.
And I learn a lot of stuff from just people I talk to.
I mean, that's part of the beauty of being a show host. There,
it is.
Yeah.
I can talk to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I keep saying that. Like in the past few episodes, it's been a great networking tool just to meet new people and like people that can have an actual conversation, which kind of hard to come by these days.
Yeah,
but
man.
with the short attention span, cell phone shit, to actually like sit down, and not even pick up your phone and like fucking none of that shit, just have a conversation is like a dying thing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I'll say, just for fun, like about friends and stuff, is with releasing the book, I don't know like how many fans you would say I have. There's got to be at least 2 or 3 out there, because I don't know everyone that's bought the book. But like more than anything, I've made like so many great friends,
Right.
even though I haven't met him in person. And man, like that in and of itself, it really is worth, like, it's enriched my life so much, meeting all these fascinating people like you and like so many different show hosts, like, man, it's, and authors, and, it's really wild. Like I've been lucky enough to have like a core group of friends that I grew up with who were who were fairly interested in this kind of stuff, but never took it as far as I did.
Right.
But coming across people who do shows on the subject or write also on the subject, like these people are in it as much as I am. And man, you can really go toe to toe with each other, just like in your knowledge base. And I've had so many just great conversations. It is a lot of fun networking and making friends and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel the exact same way about it, man.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, man. It's been good talking to you.
Thank you again for having me on. We'll make sure to do it again. And I'll make sure to keep an eye on the decal on the mic that shows and indicates the front of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Hunt Manual, tentative Halloween release.
You betcha. It'll be a great Halloween read. I'm also tentatively, Joe Roop is going to do the audiobook for Hunt Manual.
Oh, nice.
That won't be out by Halloween, but that will be out at some point. He'll probably do a Dive Manual audiobook as well, but Hunt Manual is going to be as spooky as you can imagine. I tried to make something like real life horror, because there is, if you're familiar with Dive Manual, it's got a little bit of like surrealist fiction in there that ties it together, but it's nonfiction research and stuff. So I tried to let a lot of the research speak for itself, and there's some creepy stuff in there, but it's all for a greater alchemical purpose. We're purging ourselves, and
that's
turning that lead to gold. Yeah. Well, that's the whole aim.
Yeah,
so
that's the hope.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
So, divemind.net.
Divemind.net. You can find me on Twitter if you want. Divemind667. And yeah, keep an eye out for the releases. Got some good stuff coming.
Sweet. Talk to you next time, man.
Peace.
Thanks again to Anthony for being on the show, and thank you, Owlman. If anyone has any information leading to the capture of Owlman, I can be contacted at dharmajunkiepodcast@gmail.com. If you liked the show and want to hear more, please rate, review, and subscribe to the show. Tell a friend, tell two. Also, if you have any interest in the Dharma or Buddhism whatsoever, please go check out the Wild Heart Meditation Center podcast. It's offered to you by Andrew Chapman and Mikey Noshell, and they're two of the best Dharma teachers that I know personally. They're just amazing people and just really tremendous Dharma teachers. So go check them out. Wild Heart Meditation Center podcast. Also, if you get a chance, go check out the History Buffs podcast, offered to you by Phil Crone and my friend Pepper Goins. It's pretty good. I gotta say, it's pretty good. They just started it up. Pepper's been doing, the Rushmore podcast for a while, but check out History Buffs. So go check out History Buffs and the Wild Heart Meditation Center podcast. This has been Dharma Junkie. I'm Justin. Namaste.